everyone, and welcome back to the Forest stage here at ETH Barcelona. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Luca Mossini from both Enzyme and Avantgarde. Come on up and give him a hand. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Mike? Hi. I was actually listening to Rekka's talk earlier, and she was, I'm very happy that I can use my hands. I don't have to hold a mic. Well, I'm Italian, so expect a lot of body language and gesture because we are genetically designed to do that. So I'm Luca from Enzyme/Avantgarde. Avantgarde being the core developer of the Enzyme protocol. We're one of the OG protocols in DeFi, actually DeFi before DeFi wasn't even a thing. And today I'm going to talk about DeFi asset management, which is increasingly important both for DAOs and I would argue also for CeFi. Let's unpack those things because there's first I would like to talk about DAOs. DAOs has a few set of challenges. The first one being I guess an obvious one, the lack of treasury diversification, which becomes very, very obvious during bear markets. Second one is the cumbersome decision making. There's lots of people shouting at each other. It's very difficult to make decisions, and it becomes very clear if you spend enough time on DAO forums. And there's little decentralization and accountability. Some DAOs don't really deserve a D. Not all of them, of course, but sometimes there's still very centralized structures with very little transparency on what's going on behind the scenes. The reasons are pretty obvious or pretty clear to me. There's priority on building products and building solutions rather than managing treasury, which is more like a financial background type of thing. DAO governance is very cumbersome and very chaotic at times. And also, there's also a lack of tooling and treasury management expertise. Most of the DAO founders are typically technically minded or from a technical background, so there's still not many people from financial backgrounds or treasury management skill sets that can actually do this job. The effects of this lack of management, massive drawdowns. You see treasuries, wallets going down 80, 90%, 95% during the year. So that's pretty crazy to see. Forced sell-offs. DAOs realize that they need some cash runway, so need to sell tokens, or they need to sell blue chip assets like Ethereum or Bitcoin at the worst possible time. And in extreme situations, we also see violation of the very ethos of crypto. I won't mention any names, but things like taking over the collateral of users in the protocol. So that's pretty extreme. I like to close every section with a sort of tweet, closing thought. And in this case, it will be it's about time that DAOs really start to manage their treasury in a more professional way. Let's go to CeFi, because I would like to include them in the conversation as well here. There's yield generation, which is totally opaque. We've seen that in many different cases. Users don't control their assets, so not their keys, not their coins. And management, we see that happening all the time. Management hiding issues over and over, tranquilizing the market, say everything is okay until it's until it's too late. Again, the reason here are understandable. Most users, let's be honest, they just want higher APIs. And so how do you get higher APIs? Using higher leverage and more leverage. So if my competitors using leverage, then I have to do the same in order to match that. And most of the CeFi players, I would say, they use opacity, or they consider opacity as a sort of competitive advantage. So there's really no incentive to be more transparent. But of course, when things come crashing down, then we have panic, because of course users don't know what's going on. So if you don't know what's going on, as soon as you smell something, then you just run. And so there's sometimes insolvencies are the result of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because everybody starts rushing away. And of course, you also have these pauses, withdrawal pauses. I think it's funny that they call it we pause the withdrawals, they think that they won't resume it at some point. My father used to say, there is nothing more permanent than a temporary solution. So yeah, this creates domino effects, as we can see, bankruptcies one after the other because they're all sort of connected with each other. So I guess the big question is, what can we do to prevent this type of systemic failures? Our CEO, Mona Elisa, who you probably know, she should have been here, she couldn't be, she actually wrote an article about this a couple of weeks ago, and she actually goes into much details about like what the solution could be. And her main point is that the answer is more DeFi. Some say like, is DeFi dead? Or like, maybe we should like do less DeFi. I think we are like very much against this trending idea. We're actually way more into the idea of like we need more and more and more DeFi. And the reason is like simple reasons actually. First of all, like you have with DeFi you have 100% transparency and real-time reporting on all the on-chain activities. User finally in control of their assets, which is probably the most important thing. And last but not least, you have higher accountability and certainly like a lot more market scrutiny. Like, so bad apples can be pointed out much quicker, right? I gotta say that it's not just about CeFi players taking responsibility and trying to be more transparent. It's also us as users or as, let's say, educators in the space to actually to become more demanding towards these type of players, because we need to ask this type of question: how much leverage are you using to boost your APIs? Or how are you giving out loans without asking for collateral to your counterparties? And is there any mismatch between your short-term liabilities and your like long-term capital commitments? This is the case, you know, some cases, for example, Celsius. So more DeFi means these three things. Users are way more informed. They know what's going on. They see the accounts on chain, and therefore they're much less likely to panic because they see what the reality is. And there's no more shenanigans, no more shady deals, no more like things behind closed doors. So there's much less likelihood of systemic risks. And of course, the market becomes much smarter. So you have a sort of self-regulation. We could actually argue that like the transparency that DeFi can bring is much better than any type of regulation. So that's one of the points that I want to bring home. And it's actually also about time that CeFi considers on-chain transparency as the ultimate marketing tool. I think transparency will become much more important, and many more players will use transparency as a way to say, hey, we're here for the long term, we're sustainable, and our business model is on-chain is here to prove it. So very, very excited to see what can happen with on-chain DeFi asset management. A few best practices for DAOs and CeFi from our own experience. First, like I said, I'm gonna really like push on this point a lot. Be more transparent. So like control the asset with multi-signature wallets or non-custodial contract. Communicate your processes very clearly so that portfolio management, how you allocate, how you like what kind of strategy you're employing are very clear, and document the key decision making, like governance, like how you're gonna react in times of crisis. Try to anticipate like what possible like what the possible worst case scenario could be and how you would react in that case, and make it very clear for your stakeholders. And second tip is go on chain. Keep funds on chain and use smart contract to enforce rules and to prohibit any type of deviation from those rules, and provide stakeholders with real-time and historical tracking, which is very much possible with DeFi. Some of the things we are actually most excited about, and this is probably mostly for DAOs, but I would argue also for like some more centralized players. A typical setup in a DAO would be having funds in a multi-signature wallet like Gnosis. Now, one of the issues that using that tool is not very practical for treasury management, because you have a lot of signatures, and for every decision you have to sign 7 or 14, something like that. So what you can do with Enzyme is actually to create a vault, which is totally non-custodial, which is owned, created and owned by the Gnosis Safe, and you can actually then delegate to one single wallet or like N wallets that have the same permissions, and you define those permissions, which can be like which asset can they invest in, which protocols integration they can use, and even like how much slippage tolerance they can take. And so they can implement a DeFi strategy which is very restricted, which is very controlled, and they can then use all like the basic value proposition of Enzyme, which is the integration, with 20 protocols on Ethereum, 4 or 5 on Polygon, and they can really do like a lot of things in there under the same hood. And as a feedback loop, then they can report back to the DAO or to all the DAO members with an automated real-time track record. That is, so you have a bit of like, in a nutshell, you have decentralized control, you have risk management in place, you have speed and efficiency of implementation in and out, and you also have the full transparency of having the reporting in place. So I think that's a very neat setup for a DAO that wants to delegate treasury. And it's not actually necessary to delegate it, because like this one person that actually operates the vault could actually well be a member of the same treasury committee of the DAO. So it doesn't have to be somebody outside the organization. It can be perfectly somebody inside, but with the ability to act more independently. It could also be a contract. So that delegation could also go to a contract or to a bot. So that can be developed to run a certain strategy, going from, for example, a snapshot decision that goes into like Safe Snap, I think, and then goes through steps of automation that again implements those things on chain on an Enzyme vault. And of course, option 3 will be delegate the asset management to Avantgarde Finance, which is a company that I belong to and that provides services on top of the Enzyme protocol. So actually, just to make it very clear, so like, I want to clarify the distinction between the two. So you can actually do it yourself right out of the box. So use Enzyme totally in a way, like totally permissionless. Everybody can use it, create vaults and run strategies. You can use it yourself, but with premium services, like for example, creating a contract that runs a strategy for a certain type of user, or like all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is like handling like the management through Avantgarde. And also, one of the other cool things that you can do now, and like we're actually about to launch this, we're in beta testing for this thing, you can actually put your own UI on top of Enzyme. That means that you can do stuff like this. So this on the left is our interface, and on the right you have your logo, your colors, your user experience. So basically, you can use Enzyme as just a technology provider, and your user don't even need to know that there's actually an Enzyme vault running in the background. You just use the basic layer of technology, which is very secure, has been battle tested for the last 5 years. All right, a few other things. We're gonna be in Paris on the 20th. We're gonna run a side event with Cryptio and Gnosis Safe about on-chain infrastructure for custody, asset management, and reporting. So if you guys are first, if anybody is in Paris and is interested in taking part of this, it's an invite-only event. So feel free to talk to me, and I'll get you hooked up for the event. I'm happy to see you there, actually. Yeah, I'm excited to take some of the people here from Barcelona and bring them to Paris as well. All right, last tweet is DAOs, CeFi, and ReFi, which actually I learned yesterday what it was, and I am very happy to have learned it because I think it's a very cool idea. So ReFi as well. I think there's going to be more and more discussion around this topic, and definitely we want to be part of it because it's probably like one of the next waves of adoption for like DeFi and make it more useful and more socially impactful. So it's about time to build something together. So feel free and come to talk to me. I'm Luca, I'm Italian, and I hablo español también, así que si alguien quiere, podemos hablar español. Yeah, this is my presentation. So we have 5 minutes left, so I was actually very quick. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Yeah, I guess we need a mic.
So first of all, can you make the presentation available for?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So my question is, although I imagine most people here agree that the solution is more DeFi, not less DeFi, do you think that organizations are scared that the fact that all of the information is on chain might constitute an attack vector that they might want to defend themselves in regards to?
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I think it's one of the main concerns for like centralized entities, and I think there might be ways like to, of course, like if you go on chain, then like things all like on Etherscan will be, like that will be ways to identify your activity. So like very elaborated or sophisticated attackers might actually take advantage of this. They will have to be very sophisticated. For us, for example, with the white label solution, we can, first of all, we can make the vaults not visible for the rest of the community. We can also hide the whole activity log, so that can be like completely only for the stakeholders that you want to show them.
I imagine that is in regards to the interface, not obviously to the chain activity itself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Luca.
Hi.
How does this work, the curation of the DeFi protocols that are available on Enzyme? Is this permissionless, or do you gate what kind of protocols are available?
Yeah, well, we have a very highly skilled protocol development team, and we have a roadmap of, now we have around 20 protocols integrated on Ethereum, and we have a roadmap where we integrate like 3 or 4, let's say 2 or 3 protocols per quarter. And so like typically we would do research. So you can consider Enzyme also as a pre-selection of the best of DeFi, because we don't integrate just any protocol. We really do our research. We speak to the protocol team of the other protocols, and we actually do develop adapters for every single integration. So it's a smart contract level that they are integrated, and that goes then to an audit. Typically, audits are like one of the most important bottlenecks, because then because everything has to be audited very thoroughly before it can be deployed to our users. We are super concerned about security. That's probably the first and foremost concern, because like especially for an asset management protocol, like that's all you got. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Can you set, can DAOs set individual spending limits for, or investment limits? So could you say the fund manager is entitled to invest into Element, but only up to 15% of the total portfolio?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
You could authorize a DAO to say invest in Element Finance. Could you specify that the fund manager can only buy up to 15% of the total portfolio in one fund or in a particular fund?
Well, you can't. No, at the moment you can define like what assets the asset manager can go into and what protocols they can use in terms of like you on and off this integration or that one. So at the moment you cannot like specify this like maximum percentage allocated here or there. But it's a good feedback, so I'll take that on. 48 seconds. All right. Good. Thank you very much, guys.